You ever have that weird experience? You're just talking about needing a new pair of shoes, and then bam, an ad for those exact shoes pops up on your phone. It feels like magic, right? Or, let's be honest, maybe a little bit creepy. But it's not magic, and it's not a mind reader. It's a system. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how companies seem to know what you want, sometimes even before you do. So that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? In a world that's constantly changing, trends come and go, the economy goes up and down, our own tastes evolve, how in the world do businesses manage to stay one step ahead of us? All right, let's dive right in. You know, the single biggest challenge for any company, big or small, is uncertainty. I mean, think about it. How do you make smart bets on what products to make, what to stock on the shelves, and how to advertise when the world can just change on a dime? To really get a handle on this challenge, let's just rewind the clock to a moment I'm sure we all remember pretty vividly, the 2008 recession. That wasn't just some headline about the stock market. It was a massive shockwave that completely rewired how ordinary people thought about spending their money. And for marketers, it was pure chaos. And this slide just illustrates that chaos perfectly. It was truly a tale of two shoppers. On one hand, you had luxury brands like Mercedes just getting hammered. Sales dropped by a third. People slammed the brakes on buying anything that wasn't essential. But then, on the other side of the coin, you had these comfort brands, things like Cheerios and Hamburger Helper. Their revenues were actually climbing. People were turning to what was familiar and affordable. For companies, this was a massive wake-up call. Just guessing wasn't going to cut it anymore. The new question was, how do we see these shifts coming before they happen? Well, the answer was, they had to build a nervous system, a way to feel and hear and see what was happening out in the market in real time. This is what we call the Marketer's Information Toolkit, and it's how they take all that messy uncertainty and turn it into clear, actionable insights. Now, at the very heart of this toolkit is something called the Marketing Information System, or MIS for short. Now, I know, the definition on the screen sounds super formal, but think of it like this. The MIS is the company's brain. It's the whole operation for gathering up all the little bits and pieces of data floating around, making sense of it all, and then, and this is the important part, getting the right info to the right people so they can actually make smart decisions. So, how does this brain actually work? Well, it basically stands on three main pillars. First, it looks inward, at all the data the company already has. Second, it looks outward, scanning the entire world for trends and what competitors are up to. And third, it can look deeper, using targeted marketing research to answer very specific questions. Now, for today, we're going to really focus in on those first two pillars, how companies use the data they have and how they scan the world for clues.
So let's start with that first pillar, using what a company already knows. This is all about tapping into the absolute treasure trove of data they generate just by doing business every single day.
See, every single interaction you have with a company, whether you buy something, click a link on their website, or even call their customer service line, all of it creates a data point. It's like you're leaving behind this digital trail of breadcrumbs showing them your behaviors, your habits, and your preferences. And to see just how incredibly powerful this can be, we're going to look at a real-world example from a company we all know, Best Buy. They have turned collecting internal data into a genuine goldmine for understanding their customers. I mean, just to get a sense of the scale we're talking about, look at this number, 75 million. That's how many households are in Best Buy's database. Every mouse click, every phone call, every purchase, it's all captured. That is an absolutely staggering mountain of information to work with. So what do they do with all that data? Well, they create profiles. They try to figure out who you are. To them, you might be Buzz, the young tech geek who's always got to have the latest and greatest gadget. Or maybe you're Jill, the suburban mom, who's looking for practical tech solutions for her family. Or you could be Barry, the wealthy professional guy. By sorting their customers into these kinds of profiles, Best Buy can tailor their marketing, their store layouts, everything, with incredible precision. But here's the thing. A company's own data, that's only half the story. To really understand the lay of the land, they have to look outward. And that brings us to the second pillar, marketing intelligence. This is all about scanning the entire environment for clues. I love this quote from the old oil tycoon T. Boone Pickens. It's a perfect, if kind of old-school example of competitive intelligence. He literally had people sitting half a mile away with binoculars, watching his rivals, trying to figure out what they were up to. Now, obviously, today the tools are a little more sophisticated. Think monitoring social media instead of using field glasses, but the principle is exactly the same. You have to know what your competition is doing. And it's not just about competitors. Smart companies are constantly scanning for shifts in these 6 major forces. We're talking everything from demographic changes, like who is living where and the state of the economy,
all the way to subtle cultural trends and, of course, huge technological breakthroughs. Any one of these forces can create a massive opportunity or a devastating threat if you're not paying attention.
And here is a fantastic example of this in action. The state of Michigan dove deep into demographic data, studying who is visiting their state and who is visiting competing destinations. By really understanding those travelers, they created the brilliant Pure Michigan ad campaign. And the result? A huge boost to tourism. We're talking 3.8 million new trips and $805 million in new spending. That is the incredible power of looking outward.
Okay, so companies are gathering all this internal data and all this external data. But data just for the sake of having data is pretty useless. The ultimate goal, the real holy grail, is to put it all together to do something that seems almost impossible: predict the future. And that's where forecasting customer demand comes into play.
Now, to do this, we've got to get two key ideas straight. First, there's something called market potential. Think of this as the absolute ceiling. It's the maximum amount of a product that could possibly be sold by everybody in the industry combined. Then, second, you have the sales forecast. This is way more specific. This is the expected number of sales a single company thinks it can get based on its very specific marketing plan. So, one is the big picture dream, the other is the concrete target.
So, the really crucial part is understanding how companies go from everybody in the world down to their actual customers. It's kind of like a giant funnel. They start with the potential market. That's basically anyone who might have some interest. Then they narrow it down to the available market. Those are the people who have the interest but also the money and the access to buy it. From there, they pick their target market, the specific group they're going to go after. And finally, the penetrated market is the group of people who are actually buying the product. It's a journey from broad interest all the way down to your wallet.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. Internal data, external intelligence, all this forecasting stuff. But let's bring it all back home. Why does any of this corporate strategy actually matter to you?
Well, it matters because this entire complex system directly shapes the world you live in as a consumer. The reason a certain brand of cereal is on the shelf at your store, the reason that specific ad for a vacation pops up in your social media feed, even the price you pay for your morning coffee, it is all the end result of companies using this marketing information system to make thousands of tiny decisions that all add up to influence what you see, what you choose, and what you buy.
And that leaves us with a final and I think a really important question to think about. We've seen how companies build these incredibly detailed profiles of us, right? The Buzz and Jill personas from Best Buy. They do it to give us more relevant offers, to make our shopping experience better. But this opens up a huge debate. Where's the line? When does helpful personalization cross over and start to feel like an uncomfortable invasion of your privacy? That's the big question we all have to grapple with in this day and age.